Tonight on GamePoints episode 381, more sweet. Start over. I already did not like that. Let's start over again. Tonight on GamePoints episode 389, we have even more sweet baby fallout from the ongoing controversy that only seems to be ramping up. A beloved video game and anime artist passes away, and a studio is shut down before they even have their first game coming out. All that and more in just a moment, but first I want to remind everyone here this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV /GamePoints or later at any myriad of video hosting platforms, feel free to join the conversation with any comments, concerns, questions you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. All right, let's go ahead and get right into this first story here, and it's got to be about more of that sweet baby fallout. And I'm already seeing this starting to spiral out of control because people cannot help themselves on either side, by the way. And I'm not going to be doing a both sides thing here. I do think there was one side that clearly kicked things off. But I'm going to go now to a charitable organization called Take This. I'm not going to get into details of what they do. I think they are with mental health and they run as a video game based charity. But they decided to post out a "Are you with us or against us?" style of statement. They have learned nothing from the first time this came over. They're even calling it Gamergate 2 for goddamn sake. Electric Boogaloo. Nothing has been learned from the first time it got like this because they're doing that thing where you have a whole bunch of organizations coming out with articles relatively close to each other trying to get other people to join in a side with the "with us or against us" mentality. Last week I talked about the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam group and how the smartest thing to ever do would have been just not to talk about it. Just let it be. You're never going to make everyone happy online. Sometimes people are just going to hate you just to hate you. But no, yeah, employees from Sweet Baby decide to try to point this group out, get it banned off of Steam, and try to get the account yeeted from the person who started it again, thus triggering the Streisand effect. Now, it wasn't too late then, though. The controversy still could have been stopped cold. It would have had 250,000 people on it rather than the original 5,000 people looking at it, but it wouldn't have become part of the greater culture war zeitgeist we find ourselves in 2024 because it's a political year. Give me 1 second. Don't get that cough. It's going to be annoying probably for a couple more weeks. Now we're getting the equivalent of the "Gamers Are Dead" articles popping up that infamously were kicked off by Leigh Alexander back when the first Gamergate started, and fucking let me take you to takethis.org. If you're reading this, you have probably been hearing about what is now called Gamergate 2, the latest targeted harassment campaign within the game industry, and it's aimed at Sweet Baby Inc., a Montreal-based narrative development studio. The campaign has also been impacting entities and games associated with Sweet Baby, journalists covering the issue, and other associated in various ways the targets. You may be at a loss to know how to talk about the issue and what, if anything, you could do about it. That's where we come in. That's right, they're going to tell you how to think. Discord, Steam, and X have been the predominant platforms where the abuse and harassment have taken place. In these spaces, lists of game studios, companies, and associated organizations are being circulated for targeting by members of the mobs. Large-scale harassment campaigns like this fuel and are fueled by political events. As political rhetoric heats up ahead of the US presidential election this year, this kind of online activity is going to ramp up, and it's important to understand that these phenomena are interrelated. They are right about this. 2024 is an election year. People on both sides, are going to be feeding into this narrative because the temperatures are already hot. So you're going to have people cashing in all over the place. The fact that I'm talking about it means even people who normally stay away from this shit are going to be involved too. It's just it is now at the point where it has a life of its own. And to ignore it would be a disservice. Going on. So I am not going to read any of this stuff down here. In fact, research could, if I take this outline, the entire spectrum of extremism and dark participation. They're essentially saying that gamers are right wing when it comes down to it. It's like, fuck off. No, stop. This is what I'm talking about. The whole blanket. Anyone who has any problem with what Sweet Baby's doing is evil and they're harassers. It's like you're doing the same mistakes again. For the love of God, stop. Please. Now, this is what I'm talking about where it's the with us or against us shit. For industry leaders, because they're giving advice. Advice couched under the thin veil of, if you don't follow this advice, then you're one of them. Because that's the same playbook they did back during the first time this shit went around. You may be inclined to be quiet or cautious, but that's actually not helpful. As noted in our resource Empowering the Game Industry, a major lesson learned from Gamergate was the importance of taking a loud public stance. No. That made things worse. You goddamn idiots. At the time, many studios were hesitant to address the hate and abuse from Gamergate in any meaningful way. The reasons varied, but usually this hesitation was more out of fear of losing profits and concern that taking stance would attract the attention of the mob. However, failure to take a stand, clearly communicate the community, backfired. There is a narrative amongst people like Take This. And by the way, these are all the exact same actors back in 2014. That if they just would have tried harder to prevent Gamergate, Donald Trump wouldn't have been elected. I'm not kidding. There is that mentality. I have heard these people say that when I was working at some of these places at the time. And now, that's why this is starting to take like a life of its own, independent of even people targeting Sweet Baby. Because the places like Kotaku and Take This and Polygon and Eurogamer see a chance for a rematch. And they're afraid that if they don't do anything, Trump gets elected again. And you can't have that because the man's clearly a fascist, right? That's the mentality. So they're going to treat this like it is life and death. One more second, I have something in my throat. Still, it's been weeks. Still having a cough. In other words, failure to clearly and unequivocally denounce Gamergate and the harassment of abuse done in the name of creating a space of hate allowed. I'm sorry, let's start over. In other words, failure to clearly and unequivocally denounce Gamergate and the harassment and abuse done in its name created a space for that hate and abuse to flourish, spread, and become normalized. Take This as saying it's your fault, editors, that you didn't join us in denouncing them. Are you fucking stupid? Because what this does is a continuation of when the Sweet Baby employee tried to get the Steam group yeeted. You're trying to control thought. You're trying to use shame tactics to get people on your side. None of this is more highlighted than the senior editor at Otaku, Alyssa Mercanti, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, I don't mean to, putting up this dribble here. I see a lot of industry folks and leaders of massive followings and influencing staying very, very quiet right now, as they fucking should. This would be a non-topic if y'all just shut the fuck up about it. I'll remind you one of my favorite Audre Lorde quotes. Your silence will not protect you. Now, you can see this in two ways. One, that being quiet doesn't mean they're going to pass over you, that somehow they'll come for you, whoever the mysterious they might be in this case. Two, that we are keeping tabs on who is not stepping up. I think that she is alluding to the former, considering that I am seeing a lot of the quotes of like, we see you who aren't speaking up shit going around. Trying to intimidate people onto your side is one of the dumbest goddamn things you can do in an internet tiff. It is just going to empower your foes, your enemies, insert whatever here. And keep in mind, this woman, the Alyssa Mercanti, once again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that name, I'm not intending to, is probably this version's Lee Alexander. Because she seems to have kicked off the series of articles that we've got from her at Kotaku, Eurogamer, I think Polygon put one out. All gaslighting us and saying, you don't know what Sweet Baby Inc. does. This is what the company does. They're just consulting. Meanwhile, we have it on video, the people who run the goddamn company saying, no, this is exactly what we do. Telling us that the Emperor, we can't even say the Emperor has no clothes. Now, I mentioned this last week. Having Sweet Baby Inc. on as a consultant does not make your game bad. It doesn't. The game was bad beforehand if it was bad. Having them come in and say, hey, we suggest, and all these are suggestions, by the way, it's not like they have carte blanche to change things at will. Typically, they come in and go, you should put this kind of representation in here. You're missing this representation. If a dialogue should be like this. That's essentially what Sweet Baby Inc. does. They don't have nearly as much power as a lot of people think. Not even Sweet Baby Inc. has as much power as Sweet Baby Inc. thinks. But it is the face of what has been a growing concern over the past few years with ham-fisted diversity outputs being brought in. I am not saying that makes things inherently bad. What I am saying is that the heavy-handed way it is being handled is so lazy that it is unable to be seen for how mediocre it is. And to be clear, if you think getting rid of Sweet Baby Inc. is suddenly going to make all that woke shit disappear, it's not. Respawn, Insomniac, Bungie, these places are already woke as fuck. They really didn't need Sweet Baby Inc. to be involved in making the changes that you see that you might hate. This is more about ESG scores, which is another topic that I'm not going to get into because it requires a lot of explanation as to what ESG is and how insidious that shit is. I'm not going to get into that right now. But know that Sweet Baby Inc. is simply a small piece of a much larger issue that the industry currently is going through. They're just the face of it now because someone decided to, once again, do a perfect example of the Streisand effect, and it's gotten a life of its own. This could have been stopped if that idiot didn't say anything trying to get Sweet Baby Inc. detected banned off Steam. It could have stopped with a little bit of casualties and consequences if we weren't getting the fucking gaslighting from all these outlets, ignoring the fact that, because if you read those articles, it's as if just suddenly one day a bunch of people started to attack Sweet Baby Inc. and all these developers and writers because, fuck it, we're bored. No. What happened is that they tried to get a Steam group with only 5,000 people in it yeeted off the internet and then have further punitive punishment for the man who created it on top. That's what kicked it off. They all conveniently ignore that shit. Which in turn makes more people pissed off. It could have been stopped there, but they had the articles. Now we're at where we are now. It is a mind of its own at this point. It is a holy war, for lack of a better term, because it fits the it fits what this feels like just fine. Not that I subscribe to that, to be clear, but now it's a cause. Now it's an issue where all the way where fucking Elon Musk decided to tweet about it. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick. Look at this shit. Elon Musk decided to fucking tweet out James Lindsay another if things on the right-leaning base had activists, and there are some, but nowhere near as prolific as left, James Lindsay would be part of that. Same with like James O'Keefe and another one. Fucking libs of TikTok is getting involved in on it. Talking about how here's a game developer talking about how she feels unsafe working with white people so doesn't hire them. tangentially related to Sweet Baby Inc., sure. But the reason why Libs of TikTok is even bringing up someone in the gaming space saying shit like this is because the can of worms has been opened now. It cannot be stopped anymore, and it is only going to grow. All because someone felt like they needed to flex what little power they thought they had to get someone's group banned office. Rather than just accepting there are going to be people out there that fucking hate you. There's like, what, 7 billion people on Earth? Yeah, I'm willing to bet that you personally, right now, whoever you are watching this, has at least 10,000 people that just hate you for no reason. At minimum. And the more public you are, the more that the more that number grows. This is going to spiral into a shit show because there is blood in the water. These idiots are deliberately chumming it, in my opinion, because, hey, they do make money off of it. Victimhood is seen as a virtue for some of these people, and they will make money from it. From increased clicks on articles, from people both being sympathetic and hate clicking, to outpourings of love and support and love bombing from their close friends who also helped cause the issue to begin with. From people going to their Patreons and their YouTubes and their Twitters or X's and social media accounts, even just to hate on them, generates income either in a direct or indirect way. And many of these outlets were starting to teeter. Look no farther than Deadspin getting the axe. I believe it was, if not today, then yesterday. I think it was yesterday. This is going to rejuvenate some of those sites just from the hate clicks alone. So it's in their interest to feed into. But these institutions are nowhere near as popular as they were 10 years ago. This is going to be a mistake because, like I said, now you have heavyweights stepping in on this shit. I mean, you have fucking Elon Musk retweeting James Lindsay, who's talking about the fucking quartering and the man who started up the Sweet Baby Inc. Discover Discord group to begin with. This is not going to be stopping anytime soon. And Take This does bring up one good point. This is an election year. Let me see if I can find where it was at. Large-scale harassment campaigns like this are fueled by political events as the political rhetoric heats up ahead of the US presidential election this year. They're right about that. But this is going to end badly for you. Now, some people cheering that on. I wish this wasn't the case because I don't want to see anyone being harassed off the internet. I won't shed tears for assholes when they get some blowback like that. I'm not even going to bring up his tweets, but like that dumbass who tried getting Catabrus kicked off of Steam and having his account banned. You reap what you fucking sow in that case. But if you were smart, you just would have looked like that and went, oh, that's stupid. Or went to a friend and went, look at this fucking Nazi sharing shit online, or whatever euphemism you want to use. And then you move on. But you couldn't help yourself. And you kicked the hive again. And while Alyssa here uses a quote, your silence will not protect you, let me show you a quote that I am fond of. I tweeted this out last week. This quote here is from an author by the name of Michael Malice in his book, The New Right, in which he discusses a bit of Gamergate in it. The quote is the following, in relation to the Gamergate one. What this illustrates is how gamers think. Their hobby, not their job, is what they do for fun. It consists of living in worlds created by others, figuring out the rules those worlds operate under, and then bending or even breaking those rules to get the results they want. They have an enormous amount of spare time and are quite prone to thinking logically and systemically when it comes to achieving their goals. This is who the evangelical left chose to pick a fight. Nothing was learned. And now it is going to be taught to them again. They are just going to get battered from all sides now. It has taken a life of its own, and it is all a problem that they themselves created. Idiots. All of them. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. Please try to keep it civil. In fact, do keep it civil. Don't try. I want to know what you guys think. I want to make this is one of those topics that everyone is going to have a different opinion on. And I want to know what your thoughts out there are. Please let this be a lesson, a morality play, if it were, that when you try to impose your will on others upon the internet, the backlash is significant and overwhelming. So perhaps, maybe just perhaps, let someone have an opinion of their own and ignore them if you don't like it. Please, for the love of God, do not try to force your opinion on someone else on this show, because this is the result. And this is not going to go away. Like I said, when you have fucking Elon Musk tweeting about it, it's now cultural. It is now part of it is part of the insanity that is going to be 2020. All right. That's not the only thing I want to talk about, though. We do have some more topics I want to discuss. A very sad one that would have been us leading off if it wasn't for all this shit happening over the past few weeks. This here is from Dragon Ball's official site. It seems that manga creator Akira Toriyama has passed away on March 1st due to acute subdermal hematoma. He was 68 years of age. We all know who this man is. Or rather, we have all played something this man has been involved with. He is most famously known for Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, that art style. He created those characters and the way they look. But he is also responsible for like Chrono Trigger, Dragon Quest, and dozens of other titles out there. If you know how those games all look, that's because that's all his art. This man was a legend. And he unfortunately has left us. And he has been memorialized online with images and gifs of that little slime from Dragon Quest getting tossed around everywhere, characters from Dragon Ball Z popping up. By the way, not to necessarily tie it back to the previous discussion, but the same man who tried to yeet the Steam group off the internet also had some rather disparaging words for Toriyama here because I guess. I won't be showing those tweets here, like, so I'm not going to put his stuff up specifically, so that way I don't get accused of harassment, but you can find them if you want. They're out there. We're losing that first big generation of game developers and game artists and game creators. And while Toriyama is most famously known for Dragon Ball, which is an anime, his hand is all over many of game. And I've been asking for the past few weeks, who was the next generation of artists that are going to be creating the games? Because a lot of the names that we know are aging out or burning out. Miyamoto is getting up there. Kenji Inafune, Iga, Hideo Kojima. Over in the States, you have Amy Hennig and Ken Levine. They're all kind of openly saying, hey, we're approaching the end of our careers, or in some cases have already retired. Who's next? Who's picking up the reins? Who is going to be the next Miyamoto? Who's going to be the next Ken Levine? It doesn't seem that promising right now. And I don't mean to shit on anyone who's up and coming, whose name I don't know. It does take your name doesn't get ubiquitous until you are older. But I'm very curious as to who's going to be leading this next torch, because we're running out of legends, and it's not going to be much longer before they're all retired and gone. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. A couple more stories I want to get into before we wrap things up here. This one we go to Game Informer 4. MultiVersus is back. That WB fighting game where you had all the WB franchises getting together, Super Smash Bros. Style, and beating the hell out of each other. It's back. Now, it came out over a year ago. Seemed to be decently popular, but was yeeted off the internet. Warner Brothers pulled it, said, hey, we'll be back eventually, and then we heard nothing from them. Well, they finally came out and said, hey, we're coming back. They're getting ported to Unreal 5, and they'll be back on May 28th. To the article itself. MultiVersus, the Warner Brothers free-to-play crossover platform fighter, makes its big comeback on May 28th. The game has been rebuilt and returns almost a year after its open beta was taken offline. Player First Games director Tony Hun explains in a developer diary that MultiVersus has been remade from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, meaning it sports improved visuals and lighting, and has a totally revamped netcode to provide what Hun promises to be consistent online performance regardless of platform. Awesome. Netcode is super important when it comes to fighting games specifically, because a lot of that stuff relies on being like pixel perfect. Excuse me. If it's a strategy game or first-person shooter, not as important. But when certain parries are literally frame specific in fighting games, you can't have any kind of lag at all. So you need really, really good net. Back to the article. Every existing fighter sports new attacks and combat mechanics, and Hun promises new fighters on the way. Additionally, new stages were teased with concept art depicting arenas based on the Powerpuff Girls' Townsville and Dexter's Laboratory. Lastly, Hun reveals a brand new PvE mode, which is coming to the game. He doesn't go into detail, only teases it will offer additional ways of playing with unique rewards. That sounds like Battle Pass shit. Hey, this season we have the beat these 10 matches and get these fake cryptocurrencies to spend in our store kind of things. That's what that sounds like to me. And they are cryptocurrency, to be fair. All these like platinum points or game points or special coins. It's all various forms of crypto, essentially. That just can't be traded. Cool. I know a lot of people who were into MultiVersus. They didn't say it was great, but they had a good time with it. Hopefully, they can find an audience again. Games that are going away, though. This is going to be a huge list. We'll go to Delisted Games, a website that I didn't even know existed until recently. Talk about how everything with the Adult Swim game title, all also from WB, is probably getting removed in May. Just completely taken off from the internet. Because it turns out the all-digital future is nowhere near as permanent as a lot of us thought. At least if you have a physical copy of some of these games, you can pop that in 20 years from now and play it. These ones are going bye-bye. To the article itself. As the week has gone on, we've seen even more developers come out and confirm that they too were contacted by Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company behind Adult Swim Games, and informed their titles would be delisted within 60 days. The latest developer to break the news is Team 2-Bit, makers of Fist Puncher, which has been on Steam since 2013. In an update to the game's page, Matt Cain reveals that, quote, "We've asked Warner Brothers to simply transfer the game to our Steam Publisher account so it can stay active, but so far they have said no, with the reason being that they made the universal decision not to transfer the game back to the original studios and do not have the resources to do so." Bullshit. You're WB. You have the fucking resources to do it. You're choosing not to, because we have seen the series of moves from WB where they're just deleting shit from existence. There was that Batgirl movie. There was the what was it, Coyote versus Acme movie that is fully, it's been done. Both of those are filmed, ready to go. They will never see the light of day because the tax write-offs they get for just getting rid of them are far more profitable, they think, than actually just releasing. Very likely, in my opinion, a similar situation here, where they can at least get something by saying, oh, we're writing these off at a loss rather than giving back their original creators. It is fucked up that this is happening. To know that something that you might have worked on for a year or two is just suddenly like gone from the internet. You ask, hey, can I at least get it back since I've worked on it? They're like, no. Is it ever going to come back? Probably not. This is so horrendous and fully expected. Where I used to be I mean, digital is the future. Love it or hate it. I remember saying that back when Steam first came out. I said, love it or hate it, digital is the future. But as we get more and more stories like this, I'm becoming a bigger and bigger proponent of going back to physical whenever you can. Because at least the physical game won't be deleted from your fucking bookshelf. Finally, with the article here. It's a really disappointing situation to be in. The developers are unable to take control of their game or keep them on Steam and apparently can't even offer them at a discount before they're gone. Not to mention that none of us, developers included, can say exactly when they'll be delisted. Could be gone by the time you see this. There's no end date. This is horrendous. And of course, as I come to the last story here, we can't go a single week without some form of layoff. Tweet here from Shinobi602 Gaming Insider on X. Deviation Games has seemingly closed down according to employees' posts on LinkedIn. The studio was formed by ex Call of Duty and Treyarch developers working on a AAA shooter in partnership with PlayStation. This has been confirmed by people who are working at Deviation. It's a studio that was never able to release a game, and the entire studio was gone. This is not just layoffs. The studio is bye-bye. I've been saying that the layoffs in 2024 are going to make the ones look in 2023 tame by comparison. This is not going to be a year of cuts. This is going to be a year of outright elimination of studios. Deviation is another one to that tally. Now, in the case of Deviation, the writing was a little bit on the wall for this when months ago some of the founders who started it just pieced out and decided to work for Sony directly. So it's not like we didn't see this coming. What was his name? Blumall? The Treyarch dev that created Deviation created it, and I think it was October through November when he left. When the man who creates your studio leaves before you even have like a game to show, that means things aren't good. So this shouldn't be that surprising, but it is still painful to watch as these studios are going to be going kaboom. Deviation is going to be just one of the few first of many. And you will see big names go kaboom before the year's over with. And on that dire bit of news that I seem to refrain every week as we go through here, I think we'll wrap the show up. This has been GamePoints 39. Thank you all for showing up. I do stream this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. I also stream throughout the week as well, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays typically, so come on by, take a look what I'm playing, and say, hey, going through some Hearts of Iron right now, really enjoying that new expansion. You can follow me on X at CapitalistPig21 for my random musings, and you can go to either YouTube, Rumble, or BitChute to catch old episodes if you might have missed them. If you like what you saw here and want to support the stream, you know what to do. Like, spits, follow, subs, shares, comments. You've been on the internet long enough, you know what streamers enjoy. There's also a Discord group you can join. Link provided down below with all the stories that we talked about today as well. I recommend you go read them. Thank you all for showing up. This has been GamePoints. Until next week, I'm out of here.